you're the guy who couldn't sleep and you turned it into an app and now it's partnered with Canada's largest fitness chain.
It grew to about 30,000 listens a month organically. It was my busy brain that was keeping me awake. I thought, well, what can I do? What's the easiest thing for myself to do to create a tool that will help me?
Are you Adrien? It says here in my notes that you're the guy who couldn't sleep and then you started reading Wikipedia over meditation music and you turned it into an app and now it's partnered with Canada's largest fitness chain.
That's me. You found them.
Incredible. Adrien, well, I had to call. I've been struggling to sleep at night, right? Been reading Wikipedia pages during the day when I realized I could have done that at night. I also love meditation music. It just makes sense to reach out. So I would love to start with how you got started with this thing. I want to take it back a little bit, take a few steps back. So you started this because you couldn't sleep. You built this for yourself. Take me back to the very beginning of how this got started.
Yeah, 100%. It was a tool I built for myself. So I'm a chronically bad sleeper. And at one point it was getting quite severe. And so I was getting, maybe 3-4 hours of sleep every night, kind of broken up or whatever else. And what I realized was that it was my busy brain that was keeping me awake, right? So I had tried the meditations, I'd tried, obviously some exercise and diet and all those types of things, but I was still at night when I went to bed, my brain was still spinning. And so I started listening to podcasts and they were really great. One in particular, Stuff You Should Know, was awesome. It took my mind away from whatever was keeping me awake. But of course, they're not built for sleep. So they were full of ads and volume spikes and all of those types of things that are really disruptive for your sleep. So I'd start to fall. My mind would, drift off into whatever was being said and my body would relax. But then could get woken up by an underwear ad or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I have a background in production. I used to produce radio documentaries for our national broadcaster in Canada, and I had all the equipment. And so I thought, well, what can I do? What's the easiest thing for myself to do to create a tool that will help me? And so the original concept was, I was just going to find Wikipedia articles that were interesting and read them in a nice, soothing narration voice, meditation style voice, over meditation music, and listen to those to go to sleep. And I thought, well, okay, that's kind of a neat idea. I can make this into a podcast really easily. And so I just released it as a podcast to my own personal network, called it WikiSleep Podcast. And it grew pretty rapidly. Like, I wasn't trying to grow it. I was just doing it for a tool for myself. And it grew to about 30,000 listens a month organically. And I was like, okay, well, clearly there's a market fit for this. So what do we do next? And that's how we got to the app.
Interesting. You had mentioned that you didn't really expect it to catch on with other people because it was just a you thing. What was the moment when you were like, okay, people actually want this?
It was pretty cool. And it was it was the thing that seems really silly, but it's I'm based on Vancouver Island on the west coast of Canada in a fairly small city. And I was suddenly getting messages from people in Miami or London or whatever. And they were going, oh my God, thank you so much for making this. I love this. I was like, how did you even find this? What's going on? And so that was just for me oh, what a cool thing that and then of course, if it works for me, it's probably going to work for other people. Not everybody can meditate, especially if you have the same sort of issues with sleep that I do, where it's just a very overactive mind that tends to dwell on things or spin around on stuff. A meditation can be really hard. I love meditation. I really believe in it, but it's sometimes you just can't turn your brain off. You need something to divert it.
How did they find you, right? Speaking of that, you had mentioned that, so you're a consumer app, but you've experienced a lot of growth through B2B partnerships, right? This has been a big growth lever for you. And honestly, a tactic that a lot of people forget, especially the consumer game. A lot of people get very focused in on, organic content, ads, but this is something that's very underrated and not a lot of people are doing, just in my experience. You had mentioned GoodLife Fitness, 911 Dispatch, Canada Wellness Box, just to name a few. I would love to get, before we dive into the story behind those, what's your broader thesis on why these partnerships are important for early stage consumer apps?
It's crazy to me that people don't think about this as a pathway for growth, because you can go out and spend all this money on digital ads and get your CPI down and all that sort of stuff. But when you go to a larger organization, you get to tap into their market, their audience in a much broader way. For GoodLife Fitness, for example, they're Canada's largest fitness chain. There's 1.2 million members. And so if we can figure out a way to get in with as a benefit for them, which we did, and then utilize that to hit a broader audience, that means that our efforts and our spend is just a lot lower to get to a lot bigger audience, right? And so if you can do that on repeat, and it's also it's a low cost type of thing as well, right? We can access now over 1 million people for a relatively, comparatively, insanely low cost to what it would cost to get 1 million people through digital ads, right?
Yeah, so I feel like the hardest one is definitely the first one, right? Especially when you're
Yeah.
like just getting started, you really don't have a lot of credibility built up yet. Like, how do you get that first one in the door? Like, what does that look like? A lot of it's relationship building, it's people skills. Like, how do you get in your
Yeah.
foot in the door? Then how do you get to the closing table with a partnership deal?
I'll say two things about that. One is it's like definitely a thing that you just have to like keep knocking on doors and keep going at it and to be kind of unabashed about it. Like just if you believe in your product, go and knock on doors and say like this will help you and help your members and it's a benefit to everybody. So be confident in it. The other piece with that I will talk about it on full transparency. I had a foot in the door for GoodLife, which was I having been a broadcaster in the past used to do a lot of Olympic work and I know like there's a guy who hosts Amazing Race Canada who's an old Olympian and a friend of mine, John Montgomery is his name. And I had been talking to him about WikiSleep. He really loves WikiSleep. And I said, I'd really like to get in with these GoodLife guys or whatever. And he goes like, let me send an email. So he opened that door
There
for
you
me.
go. Leverage who's already in your network, right?
Exactly.
Wow.
And that sort of stuff. I mean, it's hard to tell somebody to do that, but like I hadn't really thought that far ahead in sense of like who's in my network. And so I would say like, yeah, just leverage everybody that you have, do it in a way that's meaningful. So you're not like burdening somebody with this sort of stuff, but like, hey man, this is really could be a benefit for these people. It's going to look good for you. It's going to look good for me. And just be super transparent about it. Like people will skirt around things, I think a lot, but like go direct at it and you'd be surprised at the results.
Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. Let's talk about a different one of those partnerships. So let's have you pick one of your partnerships and break down what it actually took to get from the first conversation to a signed deal. So this would be
Sure.
any of the other, 4 or 5 that you have besides that first one that we just went over.
Yeah, I think what I would look to, like, I'm really excited about like the wellness boxes and subscriptions. And so
Cool.
that's one that we just are launching right now. And that one was literally a cold call. I did a bit of research. I used some research tools to go like, what are the top subscription boxes that are in the wellness space that WikiSleep could work with? Went through the whole list, found a bunch. Canadian Wellness Box. I reached out to them directly through their email that they had online and I kind of laid it out. And I was like, hey, look, this is a product that I think fits really well. Wellness is, sleep is such a big part of wellness. What do you think about that? And they took a couple days, got back to me and they were like, oh, this is kind of interesting. Like, tell me more. And then it was about like, so one of the things that I always do is like, when I want to do this, I can send them examples. I set up like a landing page, even if it's a staging landing page or stuff like that, about how it would look, give them all the details. Again, don't overdo it, but like give them the least amount of resistance so that when they want to do it, it's really easy for them. So I take the responsibility of most of the lift to get it set up, to get it working, to do all that sort of stuff. And all they have to do literally is put a postcard into the boxes that they're shipping and it's a benefit to both, right? So that one, it took probably about a month to get figured out just through conversations and a little bit of like discovery on their end and what we could do, and then also being open to like with the dispatch, like the 911 people, that was a little bit of a different structure in how we're offering it to them. We're not totally trying to capitalize financially on that one. We're using it as a tool. Like we really do want to help people sleep. These people work in really difficult jobs, but then we can also use that as like leverage for other partnerships and other types of things, right? So being open to the different kind of structures and styles. Really.
Yeah. On that note, like with this partnership or any of the others, do they normally end up how you think they're going to, or does it turn out completely different after you go through like the early conversations and such?
Yeah, I mean, like, so one of the things that I always like, I want to incentivize it as much as I can for somebody. So we have like really robust kind of rev share setups for different affiliates and things like that. And so, for example, with the Canadian Wellness Box, my approach was like, hey, look, we can set this up. We'll do all the work. Anybody that converts after the few months free that they get, you can have the first month and then we'll take everything after that. So there's like an incentive for them to be like, oh, well, this actually, we could make some revenue off of this and it's easy. We don't have to track it. He'll do all the stuff. But as we got through it, their whole thing was like, no, that actually, we don't want any of your money. We just want to include this into the box to make our boxes more robust. So we make more on the subscription and on our side. So I was actually like pleasantly surprised, right? So I was willing to give up the first month of converted payers or subscribers, but I didn't have to. So that was kind of surprising. So but I think it's just like every time just being like, now I'm in conversation with some potential partners. I can't really disclose who they are right now, but they want an ongoing affiliate revenue piece, right? Where it's like so if we get like a monthly, they get 20 or 25%. And it's like, we haven't done that yet, but I'm totally open to it because we wouldn't have the subscribers without
For
them,
sure.
right? Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. So, what advice would you give to founders that are in a very early stage, let's say mobile app? They're not prioritizing any kind of partnerships right now. Maybe they don't know where to start, what types of companies to reach out to, what job title to even reach out to, whether it's like a
Yeah.
founder or a head of partnerships. What do they need to have in place before they start? What advice would you give to them? And is there any mistakes that you think that maybe you made or you think people are out there making when trying to go down this route for mobile app growth?
I think the biggest thing is having your structure in place. So you, when you have these conversations, you can pull the trigger fast, right? And that means attribution and you tracking the entire funnel and having all those types of things in place so that when you do start those partnerships, that they have clear view into what is working and what isn't working. Some of the bigger mistakes that I made was not doing that. Like when I first started with the app, I was doing it all by myself. I now you have a larger team and that sort of thing. But like I wasn't focused on getting the actual tech stack organized well enough to have all that funnel attribution. And so a lot of conversations fell flat. They were like, okay, well, how are we going to do this? And I would just be like, oh,
Don't get caught
you
with
know.
your pants down.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing.
For sure.
Amazing. So, where can people keep up with you? Where can people follow along with the journey? Where can they download?
Obviously, the App Store, Google Play, WikiSleep. You can find it there. You can find us at wikisleep.com. We've got socials. Instagram is just at WikiSleep. I think Facebook is at WikiSleep. I would say one of the things that, just as a side note, a bit of a tangent, one of the best things you can do as a company early stage is trademark your company name. And so I did that and was able to get all of the WikiSleep properties. Somebody else in Russia owned WikiSleep at WikiSleep for Instagram, and it was dormant for like 4 years or 5 years, but I was able to get it because I owned the trademark, right?
Good.
So that's definitely something that's worked out for us. And then I think like TikTok is like WikiSleep_app. It's not a place that we're super active, but yeah, just wikisleep.com has everything on it.
Amazing, Adrien. Anything else you want to share regarding your mission or any other last little gold nuggets you'd like to leave everyone?
Nothing in particular. I just really think like if you're a person who doesn't sleep and you've tried all the other things, it's probably time to try WikiSleep. Sleep stories don't need to be boring. You just need something to pull you out of your head and help you sleep, right? So if you've tried everything and it's not working, why not give it a go? Right?
Adrien, you're the man. Thanks so much for taking my call. I'll talk to you soon, all right?
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Adrien. See ya.